Welcome, Daniel Atkins, Executive Director of the Community Legal Aid Society of Delaware. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Sharon. It's always a pleasure.
Wanted to check back with you, Dan, because for many people who were able to receive some sort of unemployment benefits, those benefits are running out if they haven't already. And one of the results is many people are in jeopardy of being evicted. Can you give us some indication of who they are in Delaware, how many people?
Sure. So good news and bad news here. So the good news is the unemployment rate looks to have reduced and leveled off. So we went from a high of about 16% back in May at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's now halved to about 8%. That was as of September, which is the last full month of Department of Labor statistics that we have publicly accessible to us. So we're looking at about 40,000 people that are still unemployed, and that's understates the scope of the problem. There are other people who have certainly lost hours, lost wages, or have not even bothered applying for unemployment because they figured that they weren't eligible. You know, it remains to be seen whether certain workers, gig workers, and other sort of independent folks would be eligible for unemployment. The lesson to the community is file first, ask questions later. You know, you want to get your application in right away, and then they can deny, and then you can seek legal assistance. So our sister organization, the Legal Services Corporation of Delaware, they handle the unemployment claims for people who are poor in the state of Delaware. And so that's where we would recommend people go to if they need assistance appealing a denial.
Dan, my next question was, and you partially answered it, are we talking about low-wage workers, gig workers? Who are we talking about here? What kind of workers?
In terms of who's unemployed?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's a mix. I think the pandemic has been an equal opportunity life disruptor. I think it's hurt people across the corporate level, professionals. But I think obviously, folks that don't have the savings, that are living paycheck to paycheck. And I saw a statistic, that as recently as last year, 40% of Americans are a $400 emergency room bill away from bankrupt, and that's shocking. The thin margin that most people are operating in within these days is really troubling. So,
and if I might jump in, people don't even think about actors, writers, directors, technical support people for the arts, been particularly hard there too. But generally speaking, restaurant workers, house cleaners, people that are already sort of minimum wage or low wage. So it's piling on them, right?
Absolutely. And so, the loss of jobs is the sort of the first trouble sign. And then what's next to hit is going to be an eviction crisis. So what's happening right now, the courts are not processing most eviction actions. They're processing some, but anything related to the pandemic, any loss of income related to the pandemic that has caused you to be behind in rent, you're protected from eviction right now through the end of the year. But starting January 1, unless Congress extends the eviction moratorium and expands the stimulus package, we're in a lot of trouble here in Delaware. Let me explain what I mean by that. So two things are going on. So the Center for Disease Control issued a moratorium on evictions for rent-based evictions related to the pandemic. That I would want that to be extended. The pandemic isn't ending at the calendar year. It's going to continue, and I
Well,
don't think.
if I may interrupt, it's amping up right now. I mean, and
Absolutely.
you
And
know,
so, the tail on this thing is going to be quite long. And the idea of massive evictions in the middle of a pandemic is not good for those people involved. It's not good for the community. Imagine how the virus would spread if people were out in the streets.
and
So
let me jump in one more time because I know there's somebody watching this interview saying, well, what about the landlords? They have to eat too or survive too. Can you weave that in?
absolutely. No, that's a crucial part. So that's the flip side of the same coin. And that's the second point I wanted to get to with this eviction crisis. And that is we need meaningful rental assistance. And what I mean by that is we need assistance that will help landlords get paid and help tenants get their rent paid. And we have a really strong program in Delaware called the Delaware Housing Assistance Program. And it has about $40 million in it right now. Much of that money, though, is made up of CARES Act money, federal stimulus money. And the problem is it will all have to be returned to, anything unspent will have to be returned to the federal government if it's not spent by the end of the calendar year, unless Congress acts to extend it. And so that's what we're hoping for. That's what we need. Right now, last I had heard, about $6 million of that $40 million had been committed. So the thought of $35 million having to be returned to the feds is outrageous when there's going to be tremendous need. And the beauty of the Delaware Housing Assistance Program is it helps both parties. It helps the tenants and it helps the landlords. Because you're right, most landlords, they have bills to pay as well. They have mortgages. They don't own the buildings outright. They're paying off banks.
Sure.
And there would be a tremendous hit to the low-income housing community if we didn't provide meaningful assistance to landlords as
Sure.
well. So
So your organization is God sent, is what I want to say. I'll just come right out with it. And you're there really to assist people who maybe have gotten to the point where they're being now served, right, with notices. What do you advise people to do? Is it some people might be intimidated, Dan, from reaching out and contacting you? Oh, it's too complex. I can't even deal with it. What do you advise?
well, definitely don't bury your head in the sand. Call us. We're open for business. We're not taking walk-in clients yet, but our phones are fully operational. Our staff is entirely working. We've actually grown our staff over the last few months to anticipate the increased need for our services. So we're here to help, and we can help. So whether you've got a public benefits termination notice, an eviction notice, you're in need of a protection order because you're a survivor of domestic violence, whether there's a disability claim, unemployment claim, anything that you can think of just about, you can call us and we can either help or get you to the right place that you need to get to. And again, all of our services are free. We're very responsive to folks in the community. You can access our services in one of two ways. One is by calling our offices. That's the easiest for most people. The other is to go through a website, the Delaware HelpLink website. And if you prefer, some people may prefer to access us off hours and without having to talk to someone. Some of our clients, though, don't have great internet access or have limited minutes. They don't have smartphones. So for those people, calling us is their preferred mode. But other folks can access through the internet as well. And you'll go through this automated system that will then get you to the right place.
And Dan, I think we can't do this interview without reminding people that your organization also needs funds and that you accept donations.
Yeah. So about 15% of our agency budgets between the three legal services agencies, CLASI, Legal Services Corporation of Delaware and Delaware Volunteer Legal Services. About 15% of our combined agency budgets are made up of private donations. And the easiest way to contribute is through our fundraising arm called the Combined Campaign for Justice, and that's delawareccj.org, and you can do it all online, and that's the easiest way. And then we'd love you to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Again, Delaware CCJ, and we're posting things, advice to the community, where you can go for help, what kind of help, know your rights, and just information and interesting articles about the low-income community, marginalized populations, and we love to have create a community of folks who are interested in and care about the work that we do and the people who are supporting.
Well, thank you so much, and please post this interview video as well, and so folks can see and hear, what you're doing. Thank you so much, and I guess the good news is for right now, most people are okay till the end of the year, yeah?
Yes, I think the hell to pay is going to come January 1 unless we have significant congressional action that will extend moratoriums and provide more meaningful stimulus relief.
What is the phrase? From your lips to God's ears.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Dan Atkins, thank you, and thank you so much for the great work you do.
Thank you, Sharon.
All right, talk soon.